just like cars that transitioned from the age of functionality to age of experience, the displays are right now at the maturity level that they are transitioning from the age of functionality to age of experience. It's not just about showing you a good image anymore. It's really about how do you fully experience that digital world.
Thank you, Barmak. Really appreciate you being a part of Change I Am Possible podcast, which is India's first future tech podcast. So my listeners who don't know about you, I'm going to give them like a brief introduction and we'll get on to the conversation. So Mr. Barmak Heshmat is the former head of optics at Meta Augmented Reality. He's the former research scientist at MIT Media Lab, co-founder at Imaginarium of Technology, a platform for sharing engineering ideas. And currently, he's the CEO of Brelyon, a stealth technology startup in Silicon Valley. Barmak, really appreciate and honored to have you on Change I Am Possible podcast. So let's start with a little background of who you are, what you've been building, Meta Augmented Reality, obviously, and till now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been mostly involved in optics in my engineering career, and I used to work on ultrafast imaging systems and depth imaging systems like depth cameras and things like that at MIT. And then I joined Meta Augmented Reality, and there I was developing me and my team were developing the sort of future headsets, the optics of the future headsets to make headsets more compact, make the depth fidelity better and things like that. But after some time there, I realized that wearing something on your face is actually a big problem. It's a big friction. And, if you have experience wearing a mask in pandemic, you understand how frustrating that is to wear something on your face, the whole day. And now imagine, a 200 gram, a 300 gram, or even 100 gram object on your face for 8 hours a day. It's not very pleasant. So that was always in my mind, that why immersion should always have to come with a headset. And that's why I founded a company, Brelyon, to really make a display or an experience that gives you immersion without the need to wear any headset and explore that uncharted territory, basically.
Right. So before we get into your product, what you built at this point in time, so can you talk a little bit more about Meta Augmented Reality, your experiences, your learning from there, and what you've till now?
Absolutely. I mean, this was a very valuable experience for me to work at Meta Augmented Reality because, it was the first time that I was working in industry. So that really helped me to understand, what are the levels of production, what kind of processes this kind of hardware goes before they can be mass manufactured, or the quality control processes, and all of that information was very helpful for me. And also it helped me to think about, human ergonomics, like, what kind of field of view is good enough, what kind of, resolution per eye is sufficient, how do we perceive depth, and what are the, shortcomings of that in human perception and things like that. And that helps a lot because when you're trying to design a headset, you're designing it for human. So it's not just like a display that is supposed to put out some lights, very uniformly. It's actually designed for eye. So, there's certain angles that the light has come into. There's certain distances between the eye that you have to consider when you're designing a headset. And learning about all of that at Meta was very valuable to really learn about human ergonomics, because I didn't come from that background. I was mostly doing, working with infrared lasers and things like that. I didn't really care about, humans at the end. But when you're designing a headset, you're really designing it for a user. So you have to consider all of that in your optics design, in your characterization of your system, all of those things.
So from a headset, what made you jump to a display? Because it's a headset. I guess, when you get into AR, VR headset, as an engineer, right, when you want to build an AR, VR headset, obviously, we know the current limitations of the technology. Yes, obviously, it's going to be bulky. Yes, so there's going to be a lot of technology issues and stuff like that. But we also know that the ones who are vested in this technology also understand that it's going to get lighter, it's going to get better, and maybe in 3 decades or maybe lesser, we will have something maybe as lighter, just maybe much faster. Though I've I mentioned 3 decades. So what made you jump from a headset to a display?
Yeah, let me tell you exactly why I did that jump. The reason is I totally agree with you. I think you're completely right. The headsets, they're gonna come. They're gonna be here maybe in 5 years or a decade. Where just like Samsung, introduces Galaxy Buds, and Apple does its own stuff like accessory to a cell phone. The glasses would be another accessory to a cell phone. Where you have these glasses that you can buy, and it's just an augmented reality or virtual reality or a mixed reality headset. And I can totally see that. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. But the thing is that I also see an entire new category of displays that nobody has ever thought about even, and it's kind of so unexplored that things that we see in the lab right now at Brelyon, it's just like history in the making. It's the first time that you can do this, the first time you can achieve this, and that's why I really wanted to jump to this display thing, is because just like so think about it this way: why are we doing augmented reality and virtual reality in the last, let's say, 5 years? It has become more and more popular, right? More companies are working on it. Some startups raise like billions of dollars on this. Facebook acquired Oculus and all of those. Why is that? Why did that happen? Is that because the headsets didn't exist? No, that's not true. Actually, the idea of virtual reality headset existed from like 1960s, 1970s, right? And the reason that they weren't able to make it was very simple, was LCD technology. It was because the LCD manufacturers, there was no flat panel at the time. The displays were bulkier. They had lower quality, which means that when you magnify them optically with the lenses and stuff, it would even look worse than what it already is. So that's why it wasn't possible. But now with the advancement of electronics and the higher density of pixels that we can put on a small chip, now we can imagine these wearables in a smaller form factor, and they're becoming more and more practical. And also other factors like the brightness, the contrast, all those performance of those panels, and the same thing is happening elsewhere. So just like the headset that you can now get like small panel from a panel manufacturer and put it into a headset and make a headset out of it, and for other modalities of displays, that can also open doors, a lot of doors, which was not talked about. So for example, let's say you have a tablet, right? And a tablet is, let's say it's full HD. That's pretty good. It gives you a decent resolution. But if you go to 2K resolution and 4K, a tablet of 13-inch or 12-inch, and this is large tablet by all standards, at 4K, it's almost the maximum resolution that your eye can see. Okay, so now the display manufacturers, for example, JDI or some of the Asian display manufacturers, they can make 8K panels at that size. So the human eye actually cannot see that high density of resolution. But you can use that high density panels to actually do a lot of different things. For example, you can give directionality to that light to provide depth. You can, you can use that bandwidth to give different sets of sparse depth at different distances. So you are able to achieve more with such high performing panels than just a flat panel. And that's why new possibilities are also opening in the display area as well as the headset area.
So super interesting. So again, before we get into your display, I mean, see, with the AR VR, right? I mean, once it matures, I mean, if you see at this point in time, you've got Apple who has jumped onto the bandwagon. They're saying possibly maybe around 2023 or 2022 they'll be having their AR headset ready. Facebook is getting into the gameplay, and there's so many other players, Unreal and stuff like that. I personally, since I've been invested in the space, I see a world where every surface will be annotated. Every surface will be your display. So I'm just playing a devil's advocate in a world where every surface is going to be a display. Why another display?
I'll tell you exactly why. It's a one-word answer. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Performance.
Right.
So the reason is performance, because I come from optics background, and I completely understand what are the limitations of optics. So when you make a system that is, made with set of optics, that set of optics, this is simple physics, can never be better in performance than the original panel that is feeding that optics. Do you understand? So it's, optics are usually a passive system, which means that their response, their pulse response is less than unity, which means that whatever you put into them is never going to get better. It's all going to get lower. At best, it can be the exact quality of whatever input light it had. So now, basically what you're saying is that if I can have, a lower contrast, a lower resolution display that is annotating everywhere, why do I need a higher contrast, higher fidelity image display to work with, right? And, the answer is really performance. The same reason that you don't want to work on your cell phone screen compared to your monitor, right? And these headsets, yes, they are going to be functional. They're going to be useful for reviewing text, for maybe watching videos or doing entertainment kind of stuff. But when it comes to actually professional working, I believe for a very long time people will still use some sort of standalone display to give them that rich experience. And the reason for that is, as the augmented reality and virtual reality get richer and richer, the standalone displays also get 10 times better. But they're further ahead because they don't have all the form factor issues and all the optics issues and things like that the augmented reality and virtual reality headsets do have. So yeah, that's going to answer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think I'm with you when you say that. Obviously, the current technology of all HMDs have performance issues, and it's going to take some time. Maybe 8 years, 5 years, 10 years, and so yes, I saw this video of yours, your TEDx talk, and I was blown away by your no headset display. So can you tell our audience what you've been building?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're building is an immersive display with no headset, basically, right? So we want to give you something that is as close as possible to a headset experience, in terms of immersion, large field of view, depth cues, and things like that, but with nothing on your face. So you can still move your head around and see a very large virtual, environment in front of you, but you're not wearing anything on your face. And we believe that this is a new category of displays that's going to open up really tremendous amount of possibilities in the years to come. Just like the old time where the flat panel thing became a big deal, and all the manufacturers were trying to make the display thinner and thinner and thinner. This is also going to be the next trend in the monitor because simply it can beat the normal display by factor of 10, so right now you're looking at me through your laptop screen or through your monitor, and that's limited to the physical size that this panel has. So let's say if it's 13 inch, you're going to see 13 inch. If it's 36 inch, you're going to see 36 inch. But now imagine a device that would give you 122 inch or 150 inch display, virtual display, at 1.4 meter distance at a field of view of 120 degrees, right? So it's like as if you're sitting in this IMAX theater wrapped around you somehow, and yet you're not wearing any headset. So you can just drink your coffee, you can see your keyboard, you can cry when you see an emotional movie. You cannot do those things in a headset. And that's what we believe is the next chapter in the display industry.
Lovely. I think it sounds super interesting and exciting. So what are you saying, that there's going to be a display and it's going to enlarge what you're viewing? It'll make you feel that you are in you're in a theater or something like that. So can you give a little bit more details and add in the specs of what are you doing behind this?
Yeah, absolutely. We did also an interview with IEEE Spectrum about what is the technical details of how this works exactly. What does it do? So it's very simple. So in order to do a sort of a virtual monitor that can give you depth and also can give you larger field of view, you have to do two things. There's two key fundamental physicsy, kind of like invention that you have to do to be able to do that. One is you have to be able to change the wavefront of the light, or the monocular depth of the light that is coming from pixels of a panel or an image source. Okay. And we invented that early on at Brelyon. So a component that can change the depth of an image, which means that when you put it on a panel or when you put it on an image source and you press a button, it feels like the image is much further back. Okay. You can change the depth of an image. And the second thing you have to do is that now you have to increase the set of angles that this light is coming to your face. Okay. And that sort of category of technologies, we refer to it as lightfield expansion technologies. And it's less heard of in the display field. But basically it's a set of optics or set of optical mechanisms that increase the angular range of light that is coming out of a display system or display apparatus. So imagine, for example, the cones of light, coming to your face from 0 degree to 120 degree. Then that means that when you rotate your head from 0 degree to 120 degree, you're going to see different images. But because of the modulation technology that we have, the technology that can change the depth, not only we can put that image further back, but we can actually give you multiple depth levels. So it is as if it's some sort of has a 3D effect in some way. And this is basically you're emulating sort of a headset experience, but without putting anything on people's face. That's precisely how it works.
Once something like this comes into play, I think it can transform the display industry. I see all of these big display companies queuing up at your startup. So are you talking to partners? Is your prototype ready? Can you share a little bit detail on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have made already some partnerships, which is going to come in the month ahead. It will be announced through the press. And also, we are talking to several panel manufacturers, the big guys, to form a partnership and, really scale this up. We do have, an early access program that's going on where we are delivering our pilot units to our scalable customers. So this display right now is very expensive. It's not for individual, consumer users. It's actually mostly targeted for banks and gaming stores and things like that, where people want to have a, novel experience, or they have to work with things like Bloomberg Terminal, where you have, many many spreadsheets, and you have like, people that do trading with 6 monitors. We can replace that 6 monitor with one device in a small form factor. And so, we are selling to enterprises, our initial pilot units, but by next year we will increase that batch of production and lower the cost so that we can approach larger market. And then, based on like any other hardware startup, we're going to sort of iterate on that and increase the volume and reduce the price until we get to, prosumers or consumers.
Right. You said the product is going to be expensive, but with the growth of technology is growing in an exponential space. So do you see that the price points might come down in the near future? And if it, what would be your, I know I'm maybe possibly asking you a little bit too much, but what would be the indicative price? I mean, if you see and when you see this product consumer ready?
Yeah, absolutely. So we will be very much on par with price of a cell phone or price of a headset. So anywhere from premium headset and premium cell phones, have in mind that here we're not talking about, just a, full HD monitor or 4K monitor. We're talking about something that has very high bandwidth. So it's really replacing, a multi-monitor setup.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're talking about high fidelity experience, triple or 4 times the 4K resolution, so 8K or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So I think it could just completely disrupt the display industry. So I'm pretty much excited about that. I also read that you recently got funded and you have acquired a fresh team with members from
Correct.
Magic Leap, Meta, and some other companies. So what is the road map ahead for Brelyon?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, we have like, top-notch people from, the best places I could find on the planet that do this kind of work. So and what we want to do really is make a product, make a hardware that has a very low friction with the customers. So it's not just a fancy technology, but it's actually something that people can use, right? And they can use it comfortably and they can use it for a long time. And these are kind of the very important points that you have to hit early on with the hardware. And then on top of that, we would like to build an ecosystem of software layer that can help you use this new medium, basically, right? So imagine you have a 8K panoramic 150-inch virtual monitor in front of you. How would you check your email? How would you search on Amazon? How would you, check your Facebook on such a huge theater-like experience, right? So this is where the software layer comes into play and can really help you leverage that large visual state. I like to give the example of a desk. Like think about right now, people have like a tiny, tiny, like maybe like 40 centimeter by 40 centimeter desk. So they have to constantly like close these tiny little tabs and they have to like have all these like minimizing and maximizing and things like that. We give you like a nice 2-meter size desk. You can put your stuff around, you can sort of throw your sheets here and there, and you don't have to be so worried about that visual real estate. Of course, because we grow with this size of display with computers, we're very used to it. Let me go to that tab and find that thing under like 3 different menus to find that little button that I want to push, right? But with Brelyon display, you go to the age of abundance. You're not worried about your display size anymore. And so you can have many more tabs, just like the way you lay out your documents on your desk, like a big desk, and you kind of like work on them, whenever you like. So that's kind of the difference, and that's how that UI needs to be adjusted. So yeah, so pretty early on, we just want to get the hardware right, make sure it's really sticky and it's delivering, and then on top of that, we'll build software later on.
Just a thought. I mean, these VR caves. Can you actually layer these these displays and possibly maybe have like a VR cave where you're immersed?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely have like multiple layers that you have like maybe a Windows that is more important comes a little bit forward, and your Word document is a little bit further back, and things like that. That's definitely a possibility. However, in our roadmap, we are trying to first be able to deliver to you with the most simplest hardware that has the highest value. So it's kind of like an optimization problem. You always can sort of take your technology knob and take it all the way to the end, and then the manufacturing becomes hard, the rendering becomes hard. You need higher bandwidth, you need higher computation, and you're not quite sure like all of that kind of like glamorous tech at the end is how much value is that bringing to the customer, right? Or you can sort of bring it somewhere in the middle, some sweet spot where you're still you're still giving a good chunk of value to your customer, but maybe it's not as glamorous as a Star Wars holodeck and with that fidelity of depth and things like that. So we're really trying to find that sweet spot, basically.
I wish you the very best. Would you like to talk about Imaginarium of Technology? Because I was on a side and I was super blown away by those arts, those futuristic ideas that you've put out there, the VR timelines, the VTOLs or the automated vehicles. It's super, super awesome. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started Imaginarium of Technology when I was at MIT, and it was sort of like an initiative to bring artists and scientists together to sort of communicate like ideas to the world. Because engineers, and you come from engineering background as well, we have a lot of ideas. It's not like if we go make a company that does X, it doesn't mean that that's the only idea we have, right? If Elon Musk is doing, Tesla and SpaceX, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have any idea on other things, and so where does those ideas go? Most of the time, engineers have these notebooks that they just draw stuff in there and, keep their ideas or archive their ideas. And we wanted to find an outlet that we can take those ideas and inspire other people with it and sort of communicate those ideas. Some engineers are very possessive, so they don't want their ideas to get out because they always think that I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to do this one day, right? And I was one of those guys. And when I hit my 30s, I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be able to do all of these one day. So let me just like draw them. Let me just get, collaborate with a bunch of artists and just draw these ideas and put them out there so it can inspire other people. And that's how I started Imaginarium of Technology, because there was other engineers that also had the same problems. At the same time, from artist perspective, artists do a lot of sort of random projects to just showcase their portfolio. They usually do like some sci-fi drawings, which doesn't have any scientific rigor, some cyberpunk glasses and things like that. And that ends up to inspire some of the scientists down the line. However, if these two, sections of society could have talked together earlier on, those scientific drawings, those sci-fi drawings would have had more scientific rigor, and it actually would have been more valuable. So that was what was the purpose of Imaginarium Technology, was to really bring science and art together. It's like a fashion show of engineering concepts in some way.
Right, super awesome. So, as an optical engineer, what would be the timelines that you might give for augmented reality and virtual reality to get mature?
That's a good question. I've seen many different headsets, right? And I have seen a lot of different waveguide technologies. And I can specifically tell you exactly which one is a win and which one is still a long way ahead. There are several companies that are really good at what they do. So one is Loomis, the other one is Wave Optics. So these two have the best waveguide approach, and the best company in geometrical approach is actually Unreal. So these three companies have the best optics in augmented reality right now, and I would say if you so there are two modalities that will happen in augmented reality. One modality, which I think is what Apple mostly will most likely, based on their philosophy, will pursue, is the waveguide base, where you have like a thin glasses, very small, elegant, form factor, but it has slightly, poorer image quality, and that's okay probably for those applications. And then the other approach is very rich, like, much richer experience, better image fidelity, and Unreal is the one that's doing that. And I have no idea, if Unreal is going to become their own next company, or they're going to be acquired by someone like Dell or, HP or stuff like that. But I feel like Unreal would be a company that would fit under Dell, and it will be like a PC of AR, and more hefty, beefy AR headset that gives you, high fidelity experience. And then, Apple, would do something with those waveguides that is very sleek and thin, but has slightly lower image quality. So if you're asking me like how many years it will take, these kind of things is difficult to predict, but I would say probably in like 3 years. Yeah. In 3 years, you would have like one of the big players, or one of the small players would get big, or one of the big players would put out, an augmented reality headset that would appeal to some section of the population. It will be very pricey too. It's like Galaxy Fold. Are you familiar with that phone? It's like a foldable phone. Yeah. Right? It's like super pricey. Not everyone wants it because it still has some set of bugs. So it's going to be like that initially, after 3 years from now, and kind of a couple of years from that, like 5 years from now, it would become a little bit better. It would become, some of the bugs would go away, and the battery wouldn't run low, or things like that. And I think really at around 7-8 years, you probably even own a headset, and I would own a headset as well. And I don't think that's very expected, at least, unless, I don't know, we have a zombie attack after this pandemic, and that's a different story. I cannot predict those things.
Yeah. So I'm super excited, and I wish and I hope that instead of a big company, I hope that a small company takes the space of building the next gen AR or VR headset, because I think we're living in exciting times. And I guess some of the most exciting startups are small startups, and they are back engineering what those big guys are doing and adding in one or two things which is their own proprietary tech, and building something really cool. So I'm super excited for the future, and I wish you the very best for Brelyon. And I'm really excited about your display, and I hope that maybe in the next couple of years we'll have these kind of displays. For everyone. And so your last note, what is your moonshot or road ahead future plan for you?
So moonshot is disrupt display technology, and when that happens, actually, the entire ecosystem of chair and desk and monitor can change. So the way you think about your workstation will change. The way you think about your gaming station will change because of these capabilities that this display has. For example, I'm just going to give you an example for VR headsets or AR headsets. Let's imagine that, your AR headset was perfect. Okay, it was perfect. It had perfect image quality, perfect contrast. Everything was perfect. You wouldn't need monitor anymore. You wouldn't need a desk in a conventional sense anymore. Like, why would you need to sit on a desk anymore, And all of that fundamental idea of chair and desk that we have had for centuries would sort of transform. It would transition into something new, right? And, you might be just jogging, and working at all, and you have access to all the data you have, and there's no problem, and you don't need to be confined to a certain space and things like that. And the same thing happens on the other types of display technologies. And I like to use this phrase. I say that, just like cars that transitioned from the age of functionality to age of experience, the displays are right now at the maturity level that they are transitioning from the age of functionality to age of experience. It's not just about showing you a good image anymore. It's really about how do you fully experience that digital world, and that's the transition that's about to come.
Right. Yeah, I think we live in an exciting world. And I think, from being a passive viewer of content, we moving into the world where we'll be interacting with content. We'll be touching, feeling stuff. So it's super exciting. And I think your product could possibly disrupt the world of display. So I wish you the very best, Barmak. Thank you and appreciate you being part of the show. And to my listeners, if you like what we see in here, please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks.